Welcome back. Happy Halloween. And also, the shirt that I'm wearing is a Nightmare Before Christmas, a Jack shirt that was made for me by Yvonne few years back. So, if you're wondering, well, where can I get that? Why isn't he wearing a jersey? It's Halloween. So, don't expect, I don't think I'll be wearing a jersey for the review tonight either. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. So, Jamie Drysdale is going to be out 4 to 6 months with a torn labrum. This is bad news for the Ducks and, of course, for Drysdale. Drysdale in his second year. This is a different version of a sophomore jinx. Usually that sophomore jinx or slump is, less points, but it can be an injury as well. So Drysdale, who was off to a slow start to the season, now is lost for the team for 4 to 6 months. We will hope that it's 4 rather than 6, that he'll be 100% healthy when he comes back. Considering the start to the season Anaheim's had, there's no reason to rush him back. And so, yeah, all the best to Drysdale, and in all likelihood, we'll be looking at year 3 and saying, all right, is this the year that he jumps up and gets that production that we were looking for from Drysdale as a top prospect slash good young player for the Anaheim Ducks? Anyways, your 3 stars for the week coming in after that. Connor McDavid, first star to the surprise of basically no one. Jesper Bratt, second star of the week. He, of course, is off to a 9-game point scoring streak with the New Jersey Devils. The record is 10 for New Jersey. The record for Swedish-born players, I think it's 32 by Matt Sundin. That was a chart they showed during yesterday's game between the Devils and the Columbus Blue Jackets. And, of course, Bratt gets a goal and an assist yesterday as well. So he's one of the top scorers in the league. Having a point streak like that will absolutely help. Marc-Andre Fleury, third star of the week. What's interesting with Fleury is that this year's starting to look kind of like last year. Last year, he got off to a rough, awful start in Chicago, and then he turned it around, and he seems to be doing the same thing with the Minnesota Wild so far. So we'll see if he can keep that up, and if he can, Minnesota absolutely should be a team that gets themselves back in shape and ends up in a playoff spot, and then we see what happens in the playoffs, right? Jake Ottinger, speaking of playoff goaltenders, off to a really good start this year. His numbers have been ridiculous. Now he's out with a lower body injury. So he came out between the second and third period in the game against the Rangers a couple days ago. And apparently it's a lower body injury that will be reevaluated in a week. So it's not he's going to be back in a week, it'll be reevaluated in a week. So that's troubling and upsetting to Dallas fans because while Wedgwood has been good, I don't think we look at Wedgwood and say, well, he'll be the starter. That'll be fine. The other problem is that you would think, well, they'll call up Hudobin. They don't have enough cap space to call up Hudobin, so it'll be somebody else. Now, the Dallas Stars did tweet out that they signed Matt Murray, young prospect goaltender. So, I mean, it's possible that Matt Murray ends up being called up. I don't think so, but obviously the timing of this would tell you that Matt Murray's going to have a place on this team, whether it's in the AHL helping out or whatever it is. Signing him to a contract at the same time that we're finding out Ottinger's going to be out for a while, I think those things have to kind of be related. Even if it was only a matter of Jim Nill looking at their depth chart and saying, wow, we need another goaltender under contract. Bad news for Washington Capitals fans. TJ Oshie is out indefinitely with a lower body injury. And this is tough. I believe it was Oshie that I mentioned for the Capitals that I was hoping would have a healthy season. And that's the thing, right? Oshie, there are various injuries he's had over the last few seasons that have kept him out. And when you see the term indefinitely, it's even tougher to take. Hopefully we have some kind of an outline for how long he's going to be out soon. This is a team that's already missing Backstrom for the first half of the season. Tough start for the Caps. Plus, for tonight's game against Carolina, which is already going to be a tough challenge as it is, Carlson is day-to-day. It's a lower body injury for him as well. He's not playing tonight against Carolina. So I would think that if he was okay, he'd be fine to play. But this is an injury that's at least going to keep him out tonight. So if you're a Caps fan, you got to kind of cross your fingers and hope for the best at this point, right? Interesting goaltending news with Vegas. So we've talked about goaltending a couple of times already in this video. But with Vegas, Laurent Brossoit has been sent down to the AHL on a conditioning stint. So thinking outside the box, you've got Thompson, you've got Hill. They're both off to really good starts to the season. Do you pick up the phone and see if anybody's interested in Laurent Brossoit's services? At this stage, there might be a team that could be interested in Laurent Brossois' services. And I only say that because when a team's going really well and Vegas is 8-2 and their goaltending's been fantastic, whether it's Hill or Thompson, there has to be at least some temptation to maybe trade out Brossois because you don't want to mess with that. Now, in all likelihood, Aiden Hill's the one that would end up being the odd man out. Brossois would end up being the backup to Thompson, but on some level, there's at least some chaos I'm hoping for here. I don't think it's going to happen, but I don't think Hill would clear waivers right now either. I think if Aiden Hill became available, I think there might be a taker or two. Again, with the league, around half the league at the cap or near the cap, near enough that it's hard to pick anybody up. It does make making trades a little more difficult. But yeah, I mean, for Vegas, it'll be interesting to see. Does Brossois just come in, they waive Hill, and you go with that? Or does Thompson get sent down when he's having ridiculous numbers because he doesn't need waivers, and then you could go with Brossois and Hill? I don't think you do that, but we saw Dallas last year in a similar situation send Ottinger down, which right now looks ridiculous, but that's what they ended up doing. It didn't last, of course, but it's possible, not probable, but it's possible that Vegas takes that route while they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with their goaltenders. Maybe Thompson ends up down in the minors. As insane as that would be, who knows? So for the Arizona Coyotes, interesting wrinkle. It sounds like so there's going to be a vote by City Council, but now it sounds like City Council wants to put this to a public vote. And when it comes to building an arena, I kind of agree with this actually. So there's going to be likely to be a referendum involving the Arizona Coyotes, where citizens will have a vote on whether or not to build the new arena in Tempe. And there's more to it than just the arena. It's this whole complex. I think it would pass. I think it would be a popular move for Arizona. But yeah, it will be interesting to see what the people vote. Now, again, keep in mind that if they vote it down, there is still the option to build it on reserve land where the city would get all the hassles and none of the taxes from it. So if this is voted down, they're still building it in Tempe, it sounds like. So I would think the citizens' vote probably be in favor of it. It would mean more taxes, but it should mean more revenue as well. And it's an argument that's been out there for years. Does a new arena bring in enough money for a city to justify taxes and costs that are involved with the brand new arena? And football stadiums have been not necessarily fantastic money-wise for a city that might build one, but yeah, we'll see how this goes. It sounds like the people are going to have a vote on it. Krejci's been placed on the IR for the Bruins with an upper body injury. This is, of course, troubling for the Boston Bruins, as the Czech line has been fantastic. Pastrnak has had an amazing start to the season, in no small part because Krejci, it's been seamless, his return to Boston. And so him being on the IR is something to keep an eye on. The fact that it's not LTIR is great, but yeah, we'll see how long he's out and what happens to that line in the meantime, right? Does Coyle just jump up to second line center? Do the Bruins then kind of kick themselves for trading Studnicka? Because this is normally where Studnicka would get called up and placed onto maybe even as high as the second line. It's happened. But at the very least, he was center depth. So who do you call up Beecher and give Beecher a chance at a role with the Bruins for a little bit, depending on how long Krejci's going to be out. So we'll see what Boston does and how long Krejci's on the shelf for. That's the Boston cap. Also, I figured, it's a B on the front of the hat, which, I mean, it's lazy, it's Halloween, so boo starts with B, so sure, why not? That's why I picked the hat I did. So looking at the records of each division, right? And obviously you're going to have some really good teams and really bad teams that might skew these a little bit, but it's interesting. The Atlantic has the best record right now, 40 wins, 25 regulation losses, and 5 losses in overtime or shootouts. Ottawa's last in the division with a record of 4-4. We could see 8 teams in that division at 500 or better. The Metro, 38 wins, 29 regulation losses, and 5 losses in overtime or shootouts. And of course, that's including the 3-7 Columbus Blue Jackets that are at the bottom of that division. So the division's record gets a little better if you take that out, but that's not really how this works. The Central's 1 game below NHL 500, 30 wins, 31 regulation losses, and 8 overtime or shootout losses. So that's remarkable in that the Central is usually considered to be pretty strong. And then the Pacific, which is very often cited as the weakest, 35, 35, and 5 is the overall record for the Pacific, which is mildly better than the Central, even though in the Pacific you have some teams that have really bad records. But it gets balanced out by the fact Vegas, Edmonton, and Calgary are all well above 500. So it drags up those other teams that are below. But there you go. The Atlantic so far looks like the toughest division. And when you look at the standings and the individual teams in each division, I do think the Atlantic is going to be the toughest. There are going to be some good teams that miss the playoffs this year, and so I'm going to be curious to see which teams that's going to be. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.